this is the best thing on the page that makes the whole thing feel like real. I'm trying to figure out, why is this person credible? Right away, the whole thing would feel way more human. A mistake that I see people making a lot is, so just kind of moving top to bottom. I really like the graphic on the left. Like, I thought it was kind of unique. It caught my eye. Even like the size, like the amount of just like that initial composition that's taken up, it felt nice. I was a little bit kind of confused, like how the loading animation was set up. And so then I like went into inspect element and realized the entire thing's an image. And that was a little bit of a red flag, where that is not actually text. And so that kind of threw me off. Yeah, because I was like, how the heck did they get, like, I thought that they were like doing like a mask, like a reveal mask. I was like, man, that's like really complex. And then I realized it's just
an image.
Yeah. The like moving down from there, one thing that I really liked was the layout, like the text layout in each individual like work section. I thought it was pretty cool. Like it would have been very easy to vertically align all of the text and maybe do like a 2-panel approach. I thought this was more unique for sure. Like that was probably my favorite part about the whole site, actually, is just like the way that the content is grouped. I kind of felt, maybe even backing up a second, like I kind of felt like there needed to be some, it just dropped me into that first project, right? Like there wasn't a segue, there wasn't like an introduction to it. I don't know exactly what that would have been, but it felt like a little bit of a missed opportunity. And I guess then getting into like the mock-ups, this is maybe a personal preference. It is. Pet peeve of mine is like there's like 4 or 5 like avatar mock-ups that are just overused, in my opinion. And I think like
this lady is really famous.
Like it just screams like this isn't that real. You know,
Splash.
like I would never use this avatar because it just makes the whole thing feel a little bit less legit. So unfortunately, that was one of the things that jumped out.
All designers know this lady. She's so famous.
She is so you could put her on a shirt.
Recognize her? It could be a Figma shirt at that point, or Unsplash. Just one of the two.
Yeah. I'll say 2 more comments about the top mock-up, and then maybe I'll pass it off to see if you have any other thoughts. But like, one is it's a very simplistic layout, like it's very minimal, which I like. And again, I mentioned like the content arrangement that I thought was really cool. To me, that screams like you could really make a more exciting button, even if it is a text button. Like I kind of wanted some kind of a even just a hover state would have went a long way. I think like I immediately was like, oh, what's this gonna do? And then it didn't do anything, and I was kind of like, okay. And then the only other thing and this is more getting into like the mock-ups, but there's a few places in here where the shadows feel pretty harsh. And that was like one of the first things that jumped out to me on this. Yeah. In addition to, you know, I'm supposed to believe this is one cohesive app, but there's like some really, really different border radius themes going on in this first one too. Like where like my eyes just immediately went to like the inputs and how like big and boxy they were, but then the tab bar is like rounded and that purple container is rounded, and it felt like kind of a weird juxtaposition, which is like a ridiculously small detail, but like my eyes went there so quick. So those are some of the initial thoughts.
Yeah, I totally hear you on that. I mean, it's super easy to look into that stuff, like if things don't look quite right, and even from the homepage, you know what you're going to be getting into later, where you're going to be very critical. And so those are like really important things to be thinking about in general. Obviously with your visual design, but then also with the layout of your portfolio. It's both. Like I think what I was hearing and what I completely agree with is like this doesn't look as polished as I feel like it should, as far as like the final visual design. It looks a little bit dated, and there's not as consistent as it should be. And we're going to get into that. Probably it'll be the project that we pick, and so we'll get into that in more detail. Was there any other thoughts that you had about the homepage?
One other big one is I think that all of the text animations are happening a little bit too slow. Like I was getting into the section, and then I kind of had to just wait for the text. And you feel that in the description text, and you feel that in the footer as well, where I think like it's probably tied to like scroll position. So whatever that scroll into view is, like I would just remove any delay, remove any like scroll position. And I think that would have made the whole thing feel a lot snappier. Like I felt like I couldn't quite scroll as quickly as I wanted to.
Yeah,
totally fair. So with that in mind, what would you give this on the 1 to 5? You can be brutally honest. That's a good part.
Man, this is so hard. I'm no decimals, huh?
You could, if you want to go there, sure.
I'm gonna go with 2.5. We're gonna go with 2.5.
So like a med to good, somewhere between med to good.
Yeah,
a med good. Okay, cool.
Med good.
Yeah, the thing that I want to call out, like 100% with you on the image, like I wasn't even paying attention to that because I thought I agree with you on the image. I thought that was like is unique. You don't see that very often. I was like, okay, this is interesting. Totally agree with you on the image. The fact that the entire thing's an image is a red flag. But the other part of that, which you brought up, and I wanted to just reiterate, was the fact that there's no story about who this person is or what they want to do or what they care about or anything they're focused on. And so because of that, it was just it's like, hi, I'm this person, I'm in Texas. Like, first of all, I don't think this matters on a portfolio like that. You can bring up in your about
it matters
page.
If you're from Texas.
Yeah. You're absolutely right about that. But like, just when I see that a lot in portfolios, people are like, hey, I'm this person and I'm from this place. That's like, that's fine on your about page, but like, let's talk more about like what you specialize in potentially, or what you care about, like what you want to design.
Great point.
Things like that. Like it just feels very bland. And so like, this was interesting. And then it's like very bland. And then the other piece I was going to say is like, I think leading with the name of the thing you're working on is fine, but I always believe that the title of this should be what the project was / what the impact was, like what you were trying to solve for.
Mm-hmm.
And then make this the tag. I like the style of it, how simple it was, but like what you're doing is you're forcing me to read this to understand potentially what you did versus like actually understand the entire premise, who it's for, and then maybe a small little like bit about it. So I would give it a med a good 2 somewhere in there.
Med a good?
Yeah. We're just
somewhere.
playing it safe.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like that was something that I wrote down that I forgot to bring up. Is just like the leading with just like hello as the big text felt a little like it was fine, but it felt like a little bit of a missed opportunity where it's like, what actually do you want me to take away from this hero section? And I didn't really take much away.
Right. Yeah. What makes you unique, right? What makes Joshua and not anyone else? Right now, we don't get it, right? He's just like any other thousands of designers out there, just that he's from Texas. So now maybe a few hundreds of them. That's about it. That is only uniqueness, right? So like Joshua, like what are you good at, right? We want to see that. Like what kind of product designer are you? Do you have a specialty in the UX process that you specialize in? Maybe it's visual design, maybe it's prototyping, and we want to see that, right? What kind of companies you specialize in? Like maybe it's the travel industry, maybe it's something else, right? Like what are the niches that you occupy and what makes you unique? We don't see that. The cool thing about the image though that I was noticing is that the circle, the triangle, and the squares are actually reused for each of the projects below, and that's kind of a cool way to keep consistency going. The only thing is that the circles and triangle and so on and so forth, as soon as you bring the screen down, they become gigantic. If you just make the screen smaller, you'll see
God,
circle becomes gigantic.
We got an awkward breakpoint here.
Some breakpoints.
So I would say, please take care of that, Joshua, because that circle looks fine on desktop, but not on small screen sizes. Yeah.
It also feels like there's got to be some story to this image, right? Like it's really cool. What is it? And even trying to figure out like how to make this page unique.
Yeah.
I think even just communicating why this thing is here and why it is meaningful to you could be like a fun little motif to lean into. Like even if you took those shapes and maybe even added like a little bit more of an about section, like why should you care about me, Joshua, and maybe bringing those in somehow. That could be a fun angle to explore.
Totally. Absolutely agree. So Ludovic, what's your rating?
I mean, I think I'll go with, I'll keep it consistent. It's just between a man and a good. I'm like, it's good. But it's like, it's man. It's like, I can't decide. It's just like right in between. I feel like you don't need much to get to a good. Say like, just change your hero sentence. Don't make it an image. Make it actual text. Tell us what makes you unique. Instead of talking about just what Heirloom is, tell us like what you did in that project. Bring out some of that metadata that we can glance at very quickly. clean up those UI screens because, like at a glance, hiring managers can see like, that's a little green. And if you do that, then you can actually go from good to solid potentially. So
Yeah, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we're going to move on to our first palate cleanser. So first of all, I forgot to ask you earlier, what is your beverage that you brought today?
Yeah. So I typically try to get a sour beer. I love sours. And they didn't have any at the store. So I was like, I tried to come up with the closest possible one. It's a fruit ale from
Nice.
Shorts Brewing, which I don't normally do. But it's 7.5%, which was like really odd to me. I was like, I've never even heard of a fruit ale like that. And it had a bunch of sour fruits in it. So I was like, I think this is probably gonna be the closest thing that I can get. And it's
Nice.
actually pretty good.
Nice.
it's
Yeah, you
working
love
for
to
me.
hear it. It's kind of a springy beverage, it sounds like. Which,
Yeah.
What
I
do you
pass
have?
on all the stouts and everything. I can always go for summertime.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too.
Well, I have some red wine because I'm French and you cannot go a day without red wine, right? So obviously,
day.
No, usually, French people always
It
drink,
runs in
just
my
a little
blood.
bit of wine all the time. Not a lot in just a short amount of time, but just a little bit every day, for lunch or dinner. And I had a bottle in the fridge. I was like, perfect. Let's open it again.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm having a guava cider, which I'd never had before. It's pretty good. I like it. It's very. I wouldn't say it's tropical, even though guava is very tropical. But it's tasty. So
Nice.
Sweet to dryness, like where does it fall?
definitely on the sweeter side. Not like super sweet though. I'm not a fan of super sweet ciders. Like I'm gluten free, not by choice, and so I have to stick with ciders. And so for me, I definitely like the dry stuff.
Me too. I love a dry cider.
Yeah, me too. It's so good. Okay, but actually, for the question that we really wanted to ask you during this section, what advice would you give to someone on their portfolio if you did not want them to get a job?
I'll drill into a specific portfolio project, and a mistake that I see people making a lot is you don't give me a taste of where we're going up front. And so like if the first 3 images that I see in a portfolio project are like that same whiteboard with a bunch of stickies and a bunch of like flowcharts that are so small that I can't even really read them, and I have no idea actually like where we are headed with this, I lose interest really quickly. And so I like to think about it as like almost like a recipe video. Like give me just like the little taste, show me the like 3-second glimpse of like the pie coming out of the oven. And then I'm happy to look at all your like flour, like rolling dough and everything, like, cause I know where we're going and I can get excited about it. But if it's too long before you give me this glimpse, I'll just lose interest and I'll start scrolling faster and faster and faster. And so I see a lot of people like put a bunch of work into this project, but you didn't hook me. And you gotta like, you're competing for my attention just like anything else. So.
Yeah, it's like making a YouTube video, right? Like you have to like almost show the end at the beginning to get people to be like, oh my god, this is what we're gonna get to, and then you go through the story of getting there. It's 100% about that. I love that. That's really great. Okay, so now we're moving on to the about page. So go ahead and go there now. I'm gonna put 2 minutes on the clock again, and then we'll go silent for a little bit and come back and talk about it in a sec.
A few moments later.
I think I'm done.
It's very short. I was gonna say,
You guys need your 2 minutes?
No, we'll cut it short. Okay, well, Rid, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I did a double take because I thought I'd clicked on the wrong thing. Like it's kind of the same layout, just flipped. Again, the graphic is super cool. I like this one even more. Like the style is amazing. Now I'm really wondering how you are creating this and why it matters and what it means to you. We have more text, which is good. I don't know. I guess I was kind of confused how the relationship between the about page and the home page was supposed to work. It's a little bit redundant. We get into a little bit more, like my main expertise lies in UX and product design. I think kind of everyone can say that a little bit. So I still am kind of looking for more to like, who actually are you? And this is getting a little bit more like stylistic, but man, on an about page, I actually really do want to get a sense for like who you are. Like
Yes.
a picture goes a really long way.
Mhm.
Like let me envision who you are. If you really want to like make me curious, like even just like a little Loom video, like just actually like the more that you can like communicate who you are, I think is best. So this is a start.
Okay,
At
I
least we
totally
know-
hear you on that.
At least
So-
we know he's from Texas, you know? He
Yeah,
said it 3
I
times
know
in there.
yeah, definitely clear is from Texas. That it's funny, like the image that keeps coming to mind that would be hilarious, but also not the right place to put it. But is like him in a field with like a gun, like he's going like pew,
knew you were going
pew,
there.
pew, pew. You know, like Yosemite Sam style. Yeah, we definitely know he's from Texas. Again, the image. This entire thing is an image again, which I thought was again.
Yeah.
It's funny. Had you not pointed that out, I would have. Like, I was thinking the same thing when the animation came in on the first page. I was like, oh wow, okay, like, you know, he just timed it right. Okay, cool. Like he put some effort into that, and I just wasn't even thinking to check that it was an image. But yeah, like I think I'm 100% with you on him not expanding enough on who he is and providing more information. I really like this. I think this is super interesting. Again, like this kind of stairway to heaven, if you will, or something, to the stars. It's super provocative.
Heaven, I don't know, Colton. I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, it's going somewhere.
Stairway to Texas.
To Texas.
Something.
To Houston, Texas.
But yeah, I think it just doesn't have enough personality. Like the personality came in there a little bit. Like, no, I don't have a Texas accent. I also like
Yes.
you know the World Latte Art competitions. Like that's super interesting. Like,
Yes.
it's showing me a little bit about you. He didn't use the word passionate, so that's positive.
Well done.
So far.
Seriously.
But yeah, I don't know. I think right now I would lean into a meh on this so far, and that's probably actually nice. I think it's between a needs an overhaul and a meh. And it's because I think it needs more of what Rid was talking about, more personality, a little bit more about you. And also the way I think about this is kind of similar to the YouTube video style. You lead with a little bit more about you, like maybe like a paragraph about you, and then if you want to get into more detail, you can, or offering more people that can dive into if they want to, if they have the time.
Yeah, like the thing with this about page is that, well, it's the only page where we have a chance to learn more about you as a person, right? And that's not coming across here. Like we love the illustrations. I think it's clear by now, but I think that there is an end here. We need to see also, your face, like maybe you on a vacation somewhere, like something that makes you more human, and that's I can have a connection with. I feel like, and also another thing about the image, which is like in a previous image, in the homepage, the fact that the hero section in the image wasn't overly problematic because the text size is very big. But here for this body text size, when you shrink that page, and I'm sure if we look at this on mobile, the text is gonna be so tiny that it's gonna be barely readable. Seriously, right?
It's invisible.
It's invisible.
I just pulled it up.
So,
it goes away.
So that's a problem because you display a mobile case study on your homepage, and so I'm like, does he know it's mobile stuff now? Like, does he think of mobile, right? And that's the stuff that's in my mind, and I just can't get rid of it. I'm just like, oh, he didn't think of the mobile experience, and he claims to be a mobile designer. So these are the things. Like, I would add more personality. I would add more pictures in there. Extract that as text instead of as an image. And give you a sense of who you are as a person and not just as a designer, because all the design will be in your case studies, they'll be on your homepage, sure, but here, like, who's Joshua? That's what I care about, and I don't see that, so kind of like at a map.
It's personality, it's credibility too. Like,
yes.
If I'm putting my hiring manager hat on, like, I'm trying to figure out, why is this person credible? And I'm not really given that much. I'm given these 3 projects, but it's super unclear, like, the time frame of these projects. I don't recognize the company names, the mock-ups, even going back to that, like, that fake avatar. It's like, is this just like a side project thing? Is this a real role that I'm in? And so, like, on the about page, especially if you're earlier in your career, like, use that as a way to tap into this, like, credibility line. Like, show if you have real professional design work, make that ridiculously clear. I worked at this company. Like, what? Like, I'm kind of looking for like a timeline almost. Like, what is your professional experience? And now I have that question in the back of my head, and you're making me click through to LinkedIn to figure that out. And so you're just introducing more friction into the whole like browsing experience for me, because I might not click into LinkedIn. I might already be at the point where I'm just like, well, you had your shot, next one, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, such a good point. Such a good point. So, Rid, did you give a rating yet? I don't know if you did.
I think it needs an overhaul.
I hear you on that.
Yeah.
Definitely hear you on that.
It doesn't take much work anyway. So it's not like you have to do an entire case study or anything. It's just on you, like a quick timeline, a few pictures, that's all it is, right? And
Yeah.
remove this image text. It's like, it just cannot work. Cannot work.
I don't know, as we were talking, there's no picture of him anywhere, and I know I can go to his LinkedIn, but have you heard about the guy who's currently on Twitter, who's acting as a human liaison for ChatGPT?
Oh, I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like my favorite thing on Twitter right now.
Yeah.
I was just messaging him like a couple days ago.
I think that's so funny. And I was just thinking maybe like this could be the human liaison for product design for ChatGPT. Like, doesn't want to show a photo. No, of course not, Joshua. Just totally kidding. But just made me think of that as we were talking.
Here's the thing too, is like, if you don't want to show a photo, like, I don't want people to hear this and be like, oh man, I have to put a picture of myself on there. Like, maybe that's something they don't feel comfortable with. That's okay. Like, there are other ways that you can do it. Like, you can,
Yes.
I mean, you can use one of those like generators, make yourself a cartoon. You can use I've seen like Bitmojis even that actually add a lot and look really, really good. And like, maybe there's a way that you can tap into that kind of like emoji style in other places in the site. And right away, the whole thing would feel way more human. Like, I don't want people to hear this and be like, man, I don't have a good headshot. Like, now I don't know, like I can get stuck on my portfolio until I can get a good headshot. Like, that's not
And again,
what we're going for. It's just like, make yourself feel human.
Actually, that's one of the things that's preventing people from putting pictures. Like, it's not professional enough. But does it need to be? I mean, it doesn't need to be. It needs to be just a fun picture of who you are in real life. That's all we care about. Yeah.
My first portfolio was me on a llama as a 4-year-old.
Perfect.
That is
I didn't
awesome.
have a good picture, and I was like, I'll just add this. Maybe they'll think I'm funny or something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It shows character. It shows a lot of like fun times. I don't know. I love that. Like, I think that's great.
Big time.
Cool. Well, then let's hop in. Do y'all have a preference in terms of which one we go through? Heirloom, upgrade?
Probably the first
Hounds?
one, because we have a lot to say on the visual design side of things.
Okay. Cool. That sounds good. Well, then we'll take 5 minutes, go through it, and then we'll come back and we'll take 15-ish to go through it, like 10 to 15 to go through it.
2,000 years later.
My initial reactions were that the entire, like, the hero section and that first, like, the overview section, it was all about Heirloom. Like, it read almost more like marketing copy than a portfolio. Like, even the sentence, like, we finally get to this like small subtext in the overview section that says Heirloom needed help with a redesign of the platform, and like that's where Josh was looped in, but it's still like he's the like object of the sentence. Like, it's still not even like coming from him. It felt a little bit weird. Mm-hmm. The other big reaction that I had was, I think as a rule of thumb, like, people should be able to just read the headlines or the headings on your page and have some clue of what's going on. Like, the overarching narrative should be apparent from the headings. Mm-hmm. And I shouldn't be required to read all of the small subtext to like get the story. And I can read every heading on this page and it's all generic. Yeah. And so it's like, it doesn't optimize for skimmability again. And again, like, it's like this page, like, if you're going in assuming that I, as a hiring manager, am going to read every word, that's like a big mistake. Like, you can't assume that, because I'm not. Like, I'm going to be scrolling. Like, I'm going to be moving and looking for things like what catches my eye. And if I'm just seeing like the things that catch my eye are like the name of the company, overview, problem, why is it happening, solution, what can we do, design process, discovery. Like, it's not saying anything. And the longer that goes on, the less inclined I am to continue scrolling, basically.
It feels generic. Yeah, big time. Yeah.
Pause real fast. I wanted to call out this white on red is not accessible. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Come on now, dog.
I made a note about that too, because like it's accentuated by the fact that like the white-black combination makes it even harder. Like I reread both of those twice, and it was just super hard for me to like, my eyes just like went problem disconnected. And then I had to be like, whoa, what's happening? Zoom back out. And then I could keep reading the sentence just because it was, that was tough.
Yes, 100%.
What else, Reid? Anything else that came to mind?
Yeah. I I already kind of said this point about like not giving me an idea of where we're going. Like I was experiencing a lot without really having a sense of like, I still don't actually know what we're working on.
Yeah.
And if I'm halfway down the page and I still don't know really what we're working on, that's hard. This is something that I see a lot in portfolios, is this like side-by-side thing where we're dropping in super robust, like stickies and charts and these like really information dense images, and you put them in like a 2-panel approach, and I just can't read anything. I can't read any of it, and it's just noise to me, and it's like it like frustrates me as the viewer a little bit. And so it's not like the end of the world, but like I don't know, I guess like I almost think that maybe people have this feeling that, well, if I show how complex this chart is, that will be like my gold star. Like, look at all the research judging by the number of stickies. And it's like, maybe, but right now you are communicating. Like, you are communicating and I have to understand what you are saying. And this does you a disservice. So like, either figure out a way to like, maybe you vertically stack and make the image stretch and give me a chance to read it, or just like come up with a different presentation that like tells me the story without the expectation that I would like actually study all of this, like the entire like card grid kind of thing.
And even then, even with the layout corrected, that's one thing that I noted in this case study, is that this section specifically about the discovery and all these methodologies put one after another, it felt like such a checklist that didn't really have like a meaning. Like, I didn't know why we went from user flow to sitemap. I didn't know why we went from feature inventory to user flow. It just feels like there is no transition between any of these whatsoever. It's just like, here's what I did. Here's the next thing. Here's the next thing. Here's the next thing. It's just like, what do I do with this?
Yeah, there was no why. Like, why did you do this?
Why?
Like, what did you learn from this? Like, okay, you did 12 interviews. That's great. I mean, holy hell, you had a good amount of time to get some interviews, and holy hell, you probably learned a lot. That's great. But like, what did you pull out from that? There are these quotes over here, but like, how does this matter? And you're forcing all of us to read every little bit of this paragraph versus exactly, because like it didn't extract for us what mattered. Like, basically, the way I think about portfolios and presenting as designers is that you're looking to extract the most meaningful information and make it easy for someone to understand, so you get support for your designs. And like that right now, that's not happening here. Like, first of all, this in-depth interview is to this section and it bleeds into the next. Like, there's no alignment other than center aligned. And the problem with that is it's unclear that this could belong to that and this could belong to it feels like a run-on like column over here, and then it feels very disjointed. And so for me, it was really hard to kind of follow along without it being like, oh, check, did this thing. Okay, standard UX thing, check, did this thing. But there was no why I did this thing, and the story was not consistent. And also the other thing is, kind of we talked about before, and you were talking about this, Rid, like, yes, there's a problem in overview section, but the overview doesn't provide me what the solution actually was. Like, what did you actually come out with? What was what was the final outcome? And then there are no screens I can even look at other than this section, which I can't even zoom in on. So I'm forced to kind of take a look at it. And by the way, I checked this purple, the white on purple. Cheers. It is
cheers, guys. Not accessible.
Not accessible.
Well, your point on the checklist versus the story is like, that's spot on. It was really well said. Like, it does. That's, you're right. Like, it feels like there was a Google list, and it's like, what needs to be included, and it's like isolated section, isolated section, isolated section.
It's like, ChatGPT, send me a list of the 10 things I need to do in UX. this. All right, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, it could be. You know, this is nothing against you, Joshua. I think you're probably a great person, but you could be a conduit for ChatGPT in the real world if you wanted to do UX stuff. To say, I learned this stuff, ChatGPT, what should I do next?
And by the way, all the way at the bottom of his case study, there is a picture of him. There is a
There
picture
is?
of it. Yes, there is. So
Oh,
Yeah,
Joshua, you
yeah.
exist.
Yes, put that on the homepage, on the about page, for sure.
I love it.
But anyway, so one thing that I want to say, like every single time I open up a mobile case study, I always turn to my mobile and check if it's even well laid out, if the hierarchy is good. And Joshua, like if there was one thing you need to fix is your mobile experience, because right now this case study is like unreadable on mobile. Some white text is on a white background. So for example, the problem section that is in red, when you put it on mobile, it's actually that red goes away and it's white on white. And we cannot even read the problem text anymore. And there are a bunch of problems on mobile that just make it unreadable. And because it's a mobile case study, I'm just like, this is not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is basically it's harder to read, not following the story, and then like we're not even gotten into the visuals so much, partly because we couldn't even talk about it because they're so small. You can't even see some of this stuff. Like you can't even like actually click in to understand how all this stuff works. But from what I can tell, and I mean this with all due respect, Joshua, and the visuals look dated to me. They don't look something like they're new. And so because of that, it doesn't look modern. So like, especially hiring for UX positions, I've seen a couple things that are inaccessible on this. Like, I know that some people think that UX designers don't really tackle visuals. Like as a UX generalist, you absolutely will. And
Yes.
So it makes me nervous about, like, if I were hiring for this position, I would feel nervous that you didn't know, like I'd have to be really spending a lot of time with you to develop your UI chops to come in and do a really solid job. And like, that's fine. Like I'm not sure where you are in your career with learning this stuff. And like, there's plenty of ways to learn, but like definitely spend a lot of time on that. Like really hone that in, because there are plenty of projects as a UX designer where the research you're using is like is based on what you're finding online, and like you're not getting a full chance to do user interviews if you don't have the time for it, like, which is very common. And so like at that point, you are going to be spending more time in the visuals, and you're going to have to be the one who's performing on that one. And so like keep practicing that. Keep practicing and improving your UI skills for sure.
And like Reed said, fix your shadows, because like eyes just go right there. And the other thing that's really annoying to me is the image on the right hand side, where the bottom tab bar feels so Android, and I'm on an iPhone, and it just feels like this is so disconnected. Like, I'm wondering now if he knows his Android versus iOS patterns, because I don't know. I mean, at least to me, the bottom bar screams Android. It doesn't say iOS.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like, just like a few really quick hitting practical like visual suggestions. One would be like, if you're gonna do mobile mockups like this, grab the iOS UI kit in Figma.
Yeah.
Like Joey Banks makes an
Joey
awesome
Banks.
one. Even just with like the real iOS UI, immediately all of this is gonna look better. For one, like we kind of have like this fake status bar that it doesn't exist, and it just makes it sets a weird context, and it's unfortunate because like that's not even part of your actual UI, but it's like hurting your presentation.
Yeah.
So like grab the real iOS kit library. Two, pretty much across the board, don't be afraid to just shrink all of your icons. Like these tab bar icons are
So
humongous.
big.
And so it's very, very rare that you would use an icon over 24 pixels on mobile. Like when in doubt, just put a 16 pixel icon there, maybe 20 pixel, and like it's going to look a lot cleaner and a lot more professional.
Yeah.
And then for the shadows, download the smooth shadow plugin. No spaces. Like you can't mess it up. Like you don't have to like manually configure anything. Like there are really, really great tools that will just create very soft shadows. And it really just comes down to like, you just want softer shadows. They're just really, really heavy right now. And that's why it's drawing so much of our attention. It's just because like the contrast level on the shadows is somewhat aggressive.
They need a lot more blur. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's somewhat aggressive. It came to mind.
put a somewhat in front of it.
Like you just like get in like, oh my god, shadows up.
Bruh, chill.
all
makes
the
me
blur.
want to cheers on this one.
Yeah.
So aggressive. Let's go.
One thing that I did really like, I kind of just wish it was like earlier to set the context, is like, I love that there is the GIF in the bottom, like in the forever keepsake section. Like the whole layout is small, but like having some kind of motion that makes it. This was like the most real the project felt.
Yes.
And I feel like you could lean into that, play it up more. Like maybe it's like only that GIF in one full section, so I can see like more of the details and the interactions. Maybe you also use it higher up, so I can get like more of a context to like interpret. You're creating this lens that I can use to view all of your like stickies and flows and everything. Like when I don't have the lens and the frame of reference, they just look generic. And so this is the best thing on the page that makes the whole thing feel like
nice,
real,
solid.
Yeah.
It makes it feel solid.
Yeah.
You know, coming with that in mind, like you said, feel real. Like it sounded like this was a real project for a real client, like based on what I was reading. But like that was never really 100% clear to me, and it was only based on like my.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
and
it was only reason I saw that is like the owner of Heirloom, Terry Smith, had a clear vision for the platform. Like there's a couple things, a couple sentences that keyed me into this probably being a real project, but at the same time, it's still unclear to me. And so like, I'm not saying you have to have a label saying I was paid for this or something like that, but it's part of the story, right? Like the story at the beginning, like I was brought in as a UX designer on this project by the owner or whatever. That could be part of your overview section, talking through what was going on. And that this was real, that you worked with real clients. Like that's a big deal. That's a big deal because that means you worked through the entire process and you actually handed off stuff to developers. That's a
good point, because I didn't actually get that. I didn't get that, and a lot of it was some of the typography, and I wasn't reading as much as maybe he thought that I was reading. An easy way that like something I wrote down that you just reminded me of is like, when did this happen? Is this 5 years ago? Is it 2 years ago? Was it last month?
Yeah,
I wasn't sure, and if you would have just added the date, it would have been like, oh shoot, like this was like a cool thing. Like, and I think you can tie that into this something to make it more clear that this was a real project for a real company.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, well we have 47 seconds left on this. So ratings, gentlemen.
Oh here we go again.
Ludovic, you go
last.
first. Look, okay. I can see we put Rid on the spot every time. Ludovic, you go first.
All right, I'll go first then. I think that it's between needs and overall and a meh. I mean, there are some pointers that tell me like, yeah, that there is some skill that, you know, for sure it's green, but it's there. And I can tell that you don't need much to go to the next level, but I don't see it yet. And I don't get a sense of the story, don't get a sense of what you did, of when you did it, of all the markers that make me connect to your work. And yeah, I mean, that's where I stand. I give it a 1.5 star.
Okay. You know, at first when I like scanned this like really quickly and looked through it, I was thinking, oh, you know, we're looking probably at like a potentially 3 or 4 star initially. Like that's where I thought it might be falling. But after going through everything, I think I agree perfectly with Ludovic on that, where it's somewhere between a 1 and a 2. It needs an overhaul and a meh. And which actually means, gentlemen, that we like potentially need to take a sip, because that's 3 in a row from at least 2 of us.
I was giving away my vote, I guess.
And so like, yeah, I mean, I think we already covered it, but you know, telling a story, telling why you did something, not just playing it as a checklist, providing more information up front, including the overview, like a true overview of like what the problem was, the context and the solution, alongside of the actual screens that finished this, like better layout overall, accessible colors, stuff like that. I think, you know, we obviously talked about it before, but definitely between the 1 and the 2. And so, Rid, finishing us out.
I mean, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in the same place. Yeah. I think like my biggest challenge to you, Joshua, would be take copywriting really, really seriously for this as well. Like this could be like, honestly, if I had to pick a whole number, I'd pick a 1, but this could be a 3 with just your copywriting. And like, that was the biggest gap for me. If you told the story in writing and made it a little bit easier for me to skim, and maybe made certain area, like tried to trim down certain paragraphs that maybe there was like a core idea that was just kind of buried in like longer text. I really think that the copywriting alone was the difference between this being a 1 or a 3.
Yeah. I think you're right on that. And then when you fix everything else on top of that, you could easily get to a 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but if you don't
100%.
fix your mobile experience, you'll still be at a 1 even if you fix all that.
Yeah. Second palate cleanser for you. Would you rather work with the world's best product manager and the world's most mediocre developer, or the world's most mediocre product manager and the world's best developer?
Oh man. I think that it kind of depends on my grasp of the like industry that I'm working in a little bit, because I've worked in teams where I'm doing my best to like really immerse myself in a space that I don't understand, and that's, man, it just doesn't matter how good the engineers are in that world, you know, like you're really reliant on a product manager to help you think through, and you need that sparring partner to make sure that you're even working on the right stuff and approaching it from the right angles. And so it's like, it almost has changed. Like 2 jobs ago, yes, for sure, give me the good product manager, and the developer part I would sacrifice on. I'm currently working at Maven, and I think I'd probably say the opposite, because I have a level of like domain expertise and domain knowledge where like I can kind of hold my own a little bit more from like a product strategy standpoint, and I'm someone that's naturally kind of organized and comfortable doing more of the like people skill stuff. And so like I just want to work with someone that's really, really good on like the front end and helping us like build efficiently and ship, and like making sure that something's like a delight to use. That's like a wishy-washy answer, I guess, but like classic designer, like it depends.
I get that.
It depends on also like what's the measuring stick for ensuring that like what we are shipping is ultimately leading to the success of the company too, where, you know, the vitamin Vicodin thing. Like if I'm building a product that is replacing Google Sheets and solving like a B2B problem that people experience like really, really harshly, yeah, I'll take the PM. Let's make sure that we like do this correctly. And like, you know, let's just hack something together. I know enough CSS to help maybe a more junior engineer, but if we're in a space where we're competing against really established products with high bars for user experience, you can't win if you're not like, ultimately nothing matters that's in Figma. It only matters what's shipped to prod. And yeah, give me the engineer then.
Yeah, I totally hear you. Good answer, man. I totally get that. That depends. I totally get that.
It's like such a terrible answer.
Great
but
designer.
Like, it's my answer.
It's like, okay. Last palette cleanser for you. If you were in charge of the UX design for a time machine, what would your top priority be?
I think it would be really fun to create like a consumer facing business. Like I would want this to be like a B2C product, and I would make it all about essentially, I would emphasize the discovery process of figuring out where you want to go even.
Ooh,
and like tapping into this, because like I actually don't know where I would want to go, and the fact that I don't know where I would want to go means that like I'm willing to assume that like a lot of other people would maybe just like go somewhere that isn't like as exciting. This is probably going to be a really expensive thing, right? So I would focus on like minimizing the regret that people wasted their like high price point opportunity by like not getting the most out of the experience. And so I would really try to figure out what's the best way to spark people's creativity to make sure that they like get the most out of the trip. And I would position as this like consumer friendly like parallel universe vacation almost, just because that sounds the most fun.
Man,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome. Well, that's really it for this. So before we end though, what projects are you working on, and where can people go support you?
Yeah, I'm working on maybe too many. The biggest one right now is I'm like 2 months into launching a new type of design school called Dive. There's a bunch of really fun instructors. We're offering a bunch of really great learning programs, everything from design leadership to design systems to iconography. You can check that out at dive.club. And also you can ping me anytime on Twitter. I like probably spend too much time there. I'm rid_design there as well.
Nice. Yeah, I've been following Dive since you started to announce it. It's such a cool thing. like, I highly recommend anyone checking
How
out.
do you have time for everything, Reid? I'm always
know,
asking that. I'm like Dive plus Maven plus
Figma
the
Academy.
Figma course. And I'm like, where? How?
I spent too much time on my computer, guys.
Well, anytime you come out this direction towards the northwest, we would love to hang out and actually have a real beverage in person. To be super fun.
Yeah, I would love that. I'm
Cheers.
a big Vancouver fan, so
Nice.
I'll make it out there again.
Nice. Yes. Well, Rid, thank you so much.
Thanks
Cheers. So much fun
Cheers.
having
Cheers
you
to
on.
you. That was fun.
That was fun.